Welcome to EPG Parshala. Today I am going to discuss the module on women participation in nationalist movement moderate phase from the paper Women, Governance and Politics. In this module, we are going to discuss the women participation in the nationalist movement with a historical perspective. This module is focused only on the moderate phase of the nationalist movement during the 1885 to 1905. Let's talk about the nationalist movement in India, its growth and the background. The national movement covered a time span of 62 years, starting with the birth of Indian National Congress in 1885 up to 1947. But before that, the freedom struggle against British rule started with the Great Revolt of 1857. Though this revolt is not succeeded as way it plans, but it started the rise of socio-political conscience and a new sense of nation India made people to realize the need to be free from an alien domination. The failure of this revolt and its aftermath convinced Indian people that the method of blood and bomb without proper organization and adequate preparedness would not be sufficient to challenge the might of the British imperialism. The educated Indian realized that the political revolution in the country could not be brought without psychological revolution. With this aim in the view, concrete and far-reaching steps were taken in the post-revolt years to generate among the masses a genuine desire to liberate themselves from the age-old custom, tradition and dogmas, and ultimately to bring about their political, socio and economic advancement. After 1857, political nationalism developed in India as a result of several forces working simultaneously or in close connection. It is important to note that the birth of nationalism in India was the outcome of the chief motive of the British ruler who sought to protect and promote British interest. As these interests came into conflict with those of the Indian people and the British ruler sacrificed the interests of the Indian to their own sake, discontent and resentment were bound to grow. This naturally led to the growth of political nationalism. This new phase of national consciousness was manifested in the emergence of provincial political association. The provincial association brought the 19th century India on the threshold of modern politics, though they had limited scope and program. However, during the course of the century, a number of associations came to be established in the different part of the country by groups of men united by secular interests. The factors which held them together were a common education, common skill function, and common aspiration and resentment against the policies of the British rulers. They drew their support from certain sections of the society, such as students, professionals, landlords, and common aspiration and resentment against the policy of the British rules. Their activities were limited to narrow geographical areas, but gradually more ambitious political organizations began to emerge, extending beyond the narrow consideration. These were the provincial associations which began to search for the Indians in the politics of association, which culminated in the establishment of the Indian National Congress. Between the year 1843 and 1850, before the foundation of British India Association, there were only two political associations in the whole of India: the Bengal British India Society and the Zamindar Association. There was some attempt to organize branch associations in other parts of the country, but without much success. The British Indian Association, with its exclusive character, could not meet the aspiration of the rapidly growing middle class community in Bengal and failed to secure a substantial advantage for them. The middle class was developing new ideas of patriotism and politics. The new phase of political consciousness was manifested in the emergence of political association. Like Bengal, there were some other associations established in Maharashtra and Madras. They were the British Indian Association, the Indian Association, the Bombay Association, the Bengal British Indian Association, the Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, the Mahajan Sabha of Madras, and the National Conference. Due to these association, All India National Congress was established on 28 December 1885 at Bombay. Let's now discuss about the foundation of Indian National Congress. The foundation of the Indian National Congress in 1885 was not an isolated sudden event or a historical accident. It was the result of the evolution of those political ideas and organizations. The politically mature intellectual broke the shackles of narrow group and regional interest and projected themselves as representative of national interests. The All India Nationalist Organization that eventually emerged as the platform, the organizer, the headquarters, and the symbol of the new national spirit and politics. Alan Octavian Hume was the focal feature of the Congress, emphasizing on the need to form an organization. Hume said, scattered individuals, however capable and however well-meaning, are powerless singly. What needed is union, organization, and to secure these association is required armed and organized with unusual care, having for its object to promote the mental, moral, social, and political regeneration of women in India. The first session of the Congress took place in Mumbai on 28 December 1885 in the presence of 72 All India delegates. W.C. Banerjee, the president of the first session, declared the aims and objective of the Congress and passed several resolutions in the same session. The speeches of the delegates at the first session of Indian National Congress were characterized by moderate and extreme expression of loyalty to the British Crown. In his presidential address, W.C. Banerjee expressed his belief that the Congress would be adequately advantageous to the authority and to the people. With the establishment of the Indian National Congress, the national movement and the struggle for freedom from the British rule was launched in an organized manner. For more than 20 years following the foundation of Indian National Congress, the political life of the country was completely dominated by moderates. It also gave the shape to the ideas of administrative and constitutional reform, which were the chief aspect of the political program of the nationalists. The Indian National Congress was the paramount nationalist organization which led the country to its final liberation from the British yoke. As we discussed earlier, Indian National Congress was dominated by the moderate politicians, so this phase known as the moderate phase of nationalist movement. Let's discuss the moderate character of Indian National Congress. The Congress provided a common platform for the nationalist leaders from different parts of the country to meet and voice their grievance and place their demands before the British government. The early leadership represented by people like Dadabhai Naoroji, Justice M.G. Ranade, Sir Firoz Shah Mehta, and Gopal Krishna Gokhale came to describe as moderates. These and other moderate leaders, fascinated by British parliamentary institutions, hoped to introduce such institutions in India gradually and through constitutional methods. They were reformers and not revolutionaries. The beneficence of British rule was the starting point, the foundation of their political philosophy, but yet they labored ceaselessly for the liberation of that rule. The moderate voice, the demand of the English educated class, which was drawn mainly from Bombay, Bengal, and Madras, where English education was first introduced. It was the method of political work of the early nationalists that earned them the epithet of moderates. These methods can be summed up as briefly constitutional agitation within the four corners of the law. They believed that their main task was to educate people in modern politics and arouse national consciousness and to create a united public opinion on political questions. For this purpose, the moderate adopted several methods. They held public meetings, made speeches, passed resolutions, setting forth popular demands. Through the press, the moderate carried on a daily critique of the government. They also sent a number of memorial and petitions to the high government official and even to the British Parliament. A second objective of the early nationalist leader was to influence the British government and the British public opinion to introduce the necessary reforms in various fields of administration. The moderates believed that the British were unaware of the real conditions of India. They therefore made all efforts to enlighten the British public opinion through memorial and petition by carrying on an active political propaganda in England. The moderates have been considered the pioneers of nationalism in India. They tried for the first time to weld India into a nation. The British government created a geographical unity and the moderates created we sentiment in India. Now we will discuss about the women's issue and the participation in national movements. In this Indian society, the coming of British rule again led to uses of the women's question which figured prominently in their colonial discourse. While British rule used the barbaric and pitiable position of women in India to their role of civilizing mission, the Indian reformers used the anthology of female goddess to free Bharat Mata from the colonial rapist. The colonized society was considered to be effeminate in character as opposed to colonial masculinity, which was held to be a justification for its loss of independence. But women's role vis-a-vis the family was looked through the patriarchal lens. However, this journey of confluence and conflict of gender and colonialism in India was multidimensional and multi-layered. Traditional histories of nationalism have largely been written from male perspective. Although mining of new kind of sources, women's writing, corresponded, biographical literature, interview as well as the reworking of more standard historical document, organizational and private papers, official report and correspondent widen the ambit of scope in women's history. In the Great Uprising of 1857, some Indian women boldly contributed their might directly or indirectly for the cause of freedom. Maharani Lakshmi Bai, the bravest of all rebels, shined like a bright star on the horizon of mass movement. She was among other very ably and wholeheartedly assisted not only by the Hindu women but Muslim women. Nevertheless, the number of such dauntless women crusaders were very few. Thereafter come a period of orthodoxism among both the Hindu and Muslim, particularly with regard to their women folk. The mobility of women was restricted by and large to the four walls of their dwellings. In average, Indian women had no access to school, college, and other public places. A fairly large majority of them lived as deaf and dumb driven cattle. In a way, it was dark age for women in India. It has been very often and correctly said that India's struggle for independence has also been a struggle for Indian women's socio-economic emancipation. It reveals a story of movement within a movement. Indian women contested for their legitimate space in society, challenging the Indian women contested for their legitimate space in society, challenging the overarching patriarchal setup, and also participated in the national struggle for independence. It was a unique balancing act where they had at times to compromise and console itself with the partial fruits of their long and arduous struggle, and other times to sacrifice it altogether. Women's participation in the national movement expanded base of women's movement in India. Their participation in freedom struggle strengthened not only the national struggle for freedom, it also provided the forum for women to bring the contestation and constructions of the patriarchal society. The freedom struggle saw the participation of women from passive to active to an activist role. The basic form of women movement was triggered by 19th century's male reformers. Colonial social reform of the 19th century tried to abolish abuses of social life and tried to usher in more progressive gender relations. In the earlier 19th century, the liberal reformers or the revivalists made women as the recipient of social change. Brahmo Samaj and Pratna Samaj did valuable work in educating women and gave them their first experience with public work. By the end of the 19th century, women started taking upon themselves the role of emancipators and fought struggles for personal reforms and political rights. The number of women in public spheres had increased considerably. Celebrating women novelists such as Nirupama Devi and Annapurna Devi were being referred in Bengali literacy circle and were member of literary club. Maharashtra's first woman novelist Kashibai Kantikar started writing in 1890, and first woman doctor Anandibai Joshi qualified at the same time. In 1882, Tarabhai Shinde, known as the first Indian feminist, wrote the book Comparison Between Men and Women. And despite the book was hostilely greeted, even the reformist organization, many reformers like Jyotiba Phule, defending the book. According to Gail Omwet, to Phule, the issue was the formation of new and equalitarian husband-wife relationship. The goal was to break down of old authority structure within the family. Apart from the achieved political independence, the second best benefit that flowed out of our nationalist movement has been the liberation of our women, particularly those hailing from urban settlement. However, the path shown by them in continuously being followed by the rural women also. Many of the enlightened women then plugged into India's freedom movement. Let's take a look into women's organization and women activists. Urvashi Butalia, Ritu Menon and Kamla Bhasin have discussed the deliberate absence of a record of women's voice and contribution to political situation in pre-independent India, and of the patriarchal nature of our documented history. Given the fact that in our history there is sufficient evidence that women were excluded from the formal education system, it is not surprising that their voices have not been reflected in the written texts that stand as testimonies of our history. We do not argue, therefore, about the gender biased nature of our history, but take that as a given. There are records, however, of cases of exceptional women who challenged the norm of that time, such as Swarna Kumari Devi, sister of Rabindranath Tagore, an author in her own right, a novelist of distinction. organized the Shakti Samiti in 1882. Pandita Ramabai, a remarkable woman from Pune, founded the Arya Samaj and went on to set up a series of women associations in various towns of Bombay Presidency. She also started the Sarda Sadan to provide employment and education, especially to young widows. Women's organizations were also started in Madras, Mysore, Bombay, Calcutta, and Gujarat. Initially, these associations were confined to a locality or a city. The credit for sharing the first All India Women's Organization, the Bharat Stri Mahamandal, must go to Sarla Devi Chaudrani. Sarla Devi introduced festivals and rituals to celebrate Bengali heroes and arranged a Swadeshi exhibition for the Bombay Congress in 1904. Kadambari Ganguly arranged a Mahila Sammelan in Calcutta for the wives of the member of Congress gathered at the session in 1906. On a larger scale, the protest movement against Lord Curzon's partition of Bengal gained the support of many women. The boycott agitation began earlier, finally received Congress approval at the Banaras session of 1905. While some of the Swadeshi movement action fit the traditional pattern of moderates, speeches, meetings, and petition, the press and the platform were used to preach the new creed and radical nationalism and reach an audience previously untouched by political action. So, student, let us now summarize what we have discussed so far. In this module, we have discussed about the background and the growth of nationalism in India, and also we discuss about the formation of first Indian national organization, that is Indian National Congress, which led the freedom struggle from 1885 to 1947. We can say that the representation of women in the moderate phase of nationalist movement, women remain as a symbolic representative, but they became a great source of inspiration for the women who take active participation in the Congress and the national movement of India afterwards.